Welcome back to Real Talk Cinema, your hub for deep dives, honest reviews, and all the hidden layers of your favorite movies. Today, we're breaking down one of the most controversial live action adaptations ever made, Dragon Ball Evolution, 2009. Let's unpack the story, explore why fans were so disappointed, and uncover what went wrong behind the scenes. The film, Dragon Ball Evolution, opens not with the vibrant, adventurous spirit that fans of the anime remember, but with a somber, almost rushed narration that attempts to carry the weight of an entire mythology within a few fleeting moments. We are introduced to a world that once stood on the brink of absolute destruction. Long before the present day, Earth was a battleground for survival, facing a merciless invader named Piccolo, an alien warlord whose power eclipsed that of entire armies. Piccolo's arrival was a cataclysmic event. Shrouded in dark clouds and fear, his very presence a living nightmare to those who dared to stand against him. But Piccolo was not alone. Accompanying him was a monstrous force of unspeakable terror known as Uzaru, a colossal beast whose destructive rampages left entire cities in ruins. Together, they sought to enslave the planet, extinguishing all hope from the hearts of humanity. The voiceover quickly sketches the ancient tale, telling us that when Earth's defenses had crumbled and no armies could withstand the crushing might of Piccolo and Uzaru, salvation came in the form of ancient mystics, wise warriors who had long studied the energies that bound the universe. These nameless mystics, with a deep understanding of forces beyond mortal comprehension, somehow succeeded in sealing Piccolo away, trapping him in a mystical prison, a feat that required not just power, but unimaginable sacrifice. The film brushes past this monumental victory as though it were a mere footnote, depriving the audience of the emotional gravity such a moment demands. We never learn the identities of these ancient saviors, nor do we witness the fierce battles or the heroic last stands that surely unfolded. Instead, this rich history is condensed into a handful of sentences, delivered in a monotone narration that feels more like a checklist than the opening of an epic. What's striking is that the legend of Piccolo and Uzaru is the cornerstone upon which the entire plot rests, yet the movie treats it like background noise. The story assumes we will immediately accept Piccolo's menace without truly showing us why he should be feared. There are no sweeping flashbacks of his conquests, no haunting visuals of Earth's near demise, just words fading into the void. In this critical opening moment, where the film could have captivated the audience with stunning world building and a sense of ancient wonder, it instead sets a tone that feels hollow and underdeveloped. For fans of the original Dragon Ball, this opening is not just a missed opportunity, it's a betrayal of the mythos. The Piccolo we knew was deeply tied to the Namekian heritage, to King Piccolo's reign of terror, to complex cycles of reincarnation, and to Goku's own Saiyan destiny. Yet in Dragon Ball Evolution, all of that is stripped away, replaced with a shallow alien villain archetype that lacks nuance, depth, and emotional stakes. The prophecy is meant to build suspense, to cast a shadow over the journey to come, but instead, it serves as a hollow framework, a structure without a soul. As the story begins, the weight of the prophecy hangs in the air, but instead of drawing us into a grand saga of destiny and ancient power, it feels like the spark of adventure is already dimmed. The audience is left wondering, where is the heart? Where is the magic? Where is the grandeur that made Dragon Ball a timeless legend? The ancient prophecy of Piccolo should have been the roaring drumbeat that set the story in motion, but instead, it arrives as a quiet whisper, quickly forgotten in the noise of a misdirected adaptation. After the brief, underwhelming prologue, the movie shifts its focus to a young Goku, living in a quiet, almost isolated part of the world with his grandfather Gohan. For a long time, fans, this relationship holds immense emotional weight. In the original Dragon Ball series, Gohan isn't just Goku's guardian, he's the man who shaped his heart, his innocence, his love for martial arts, and his connection to Earth's natural wonders. Yet, in Dragon Ball Evolution, this precious bond is tragically underdeveloped, reduced to a few fleeting interactions that lack the warmth, humor, and mentorship that made their anime relationship so iconic. The film presents Goku as a brooding, awkward teenager, battling not ferocious monsters or epic warriors, but rather the trivial struggles of fitting into high school life. This version of Goku is far removed from the cheerful, naive boy we once knew, one who marveled at the world with childlike wonder and who never cared for social acceptance. The Goku in this movie is not a wild, jungle-raised fighter with pure-hearted curiosity. Instead, he is cast as a generic outcast, quietly trained by his grandfather to control his strength and prepare for a destiny he doesn't yet understand. But the movie fails to let us feel the depth of Goku's training. We are shown mere glimpses, a short sparring session, a few words of vague warning about the coming solar eclipse, and a mysterious gift, a shimmering orange orb known as the Dragon Ball. This moment, where Gohan presents the Dragon Ball to Goku, should have been drenched in lore and emotion. It should have felt like a sacred inheritance, a passing of a cosmic responsibility from one generation to the next. But instead, it is handled with little care, barely scratching the surface of what the Dragon Balls represent in the Dragon Ball universe. There is no awe, no profound explanation about their powers, no sense that this small artifact could reshape the fate of the world. Goku simply accepts it, unaware of its gravity, as the film rushes forward, uninterested in building the mythos that makes the source material so beloved. Gohan's warnings to Goku about controlling his strength feel strangely misplaced. Unlike the anime, where Goku's immense power is a byproduct of his alien heritage, here his abilities feel disconnected from his identity. There is no mention of his Saiyan blood, no tales of his origins, no hint of the rich backstory that ties him to intergalactic wars and ancient races. Goku is portrayed as a reluctant hero, but without the layers that made his journey one of self-discovery and belonging. He simply seems like a strong, misunderstood kid, an outsider desperate to be accepted in a world that doesn't understand him, a trope that feels painfully out of place in the Dragon Ball saga. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of this early chapter is the mishandling of Goku and Gohan's bond. In the anime, Gohan's sudden death is one of the most powerful catalysts in Goku's life, igniting his journey toward mastering the martial arts and protecting those he loves. In the movie, their relationship is so thinly sketched that when Gohan is later killed by Piccolo's attack, the moment lands without weight, without pain, without any of the heartbreak that should drive Goku's quest. The audience is left emotionally disconnected, witnessing what should be a devastating loss as nothing more than a plot checkpoint. In Dragon Ball Evolution, the portrayal of Goku's life with his grandfather feels like a shadow of what it could have been. It's a hollow version of a story that once overflowed with warmth, humor, and timeless lessons about strength, humility, and friendship. Sketched that when Gohan is later killed by Piccolo's attack, the moment lands without weight, without pain, without any of the heartbreak that should drive Goku's quest. The audience is left emotionally disconnected, witnessing what should be a devastating loss as nothing more than a plot checkpoint. In Dragon Ball Evolution, the portrayal of Goku's life with his grandfather feels like a shadow of what it could have been. It's a hollow version of a story that once overflowed with warmth, humor, and timeless lessons about strength, humility, and friendship. This is where the movie starts to truly unravel. By failing to honor the heart of Goku's beginnings, it severs the emotional core that made his journey worth following in the first place. As the story unfolds, Dragon Ball Evolution makes a creative decision that immediately disconnects itself from the heart of the original saga. It places Goku in a modern-day high school, forcing him into the mold of a stereotypical teenage misfit. In the beloved anime, Goku grew up in the wilderness, free from the complexities of society, unbothered by social norms, and blissfully unaware of concepts like popularity, bullying, or even romance. His world revolved around martial arts, food, and the thrill of discovery. Yet in the film, the essence of who Goku is, innocent, pure, and happily oblivious, is replaced with a version of him that craves acceptance, struggles with bullies, and awkwardly navigates the social hierarchy of an American high school. We see Goku being humiliated by jocks, taunted for being different, and warned by his grandfather to suppress his strength in order to fit in. The movie wants us to feel sympathy for this outcast, but instead it feels painfully manufactured. This is not the Goku we know, the Goku who would have likely scratched his head in confusion if someone explained the concept of a popularity contest. He never cared for social status. He never needed to be liked. His charm came from his obliviousness to these shallow human concerns. The film's decision to frame Goku as a brooding, misunderstood teenager chasing validation feels like a betrayal of his original character arc. There's a particularly awkward scene where Goku is shown ogling Chi-Chi from a distance, nervous to talk to her, fumbling over his words like a typical teen in a high school rom-com. In the anime, Goku's relationship with Chi-Chi was innocent and comically naive. He didn't even understand what marriage was until it was practically upon him. But the film forces a generic love story into Goku's life, making him chase Chi-Chi's affection like any other high school crush. This misstep not only flattens Goku's unique personality, but also drags the film into predictable cliché storytelling territory. Even the bullying scenes feel uninspired. Goku uses his martial arts not for self-defense or out of necessity, but to show off, to impress Chi-Chi, to stand up to bullies in moments that feel less like pivotal character beats and more like empty power fantasies. Instead of using his strength responsibly or struggling with the moral weight of his abilities, Goku casually uses his skills to bend a car's side mirror back at the bullies, a moment played more for teenage bravado than for depth or humility. The Goku of the anime would have either walked away, completely unaware he was being mocked, or innocently defended himself without a trace of ego. What's even more damaging is that this entire high school subplot feels forced into the narrative, likely an attempt by the filmmakers to Americanize the story, making it more relatable to a Western teenage audience. But in doing so, they stripped away what made Dragon Ball so universally appealing in the first place. A story that transcended cultures by focusing on adventure, discovery, martial arts, and the pure-hearted pursuit of becoming stronger, not the shallow drama of adolescent cliques. This section of the film painfully illustrates the core misunderstanding of Goku's character and the world he belongs to. The filmmakers had the opportunity to showcase a boy raised in isolation, a boy whose innocence and curiosity clashed with the complexities of human society in humorous and heartfelt ways. Instead, they gave us a version of Goku who desperately wants to be normal, who wants to fit in, who is haunted by social rejection, a Goku who simply isn't Goku. It's here that Dragon Ball Evolution reveals its most glaring flaw. It isn't telling a Dragon Ball story, it's telling a generic superhero origin story painted over with the thinnest layer of Dragon Ball iconography. And for fans, that realization is heartbreaking. One of the most pivotal and emotional moments in Goku's life, the death of his beloved grandfather Gohan, is tragically mishandled in Dragon Ball Evolution, reduced to a brief, soulless sequence that completely robs it of the raw heartbreak it should deliver. In the anime, Gohan's death is a foundational moment that defines Goku's path. It is a tender, devastating loss that shatters his world and sets him on a lifelong journey of growth, responsibility, and protecting those he loves. It is a death that lingers in Goku's memory, shaping his character forever. But in the movie, this monumental moment is rushed, superficial, and emotionally flat, failing to connect with the audience in any meaningful way. In the film, Gohan is attacked at home by Piccolo, who has broken free from his ancient prison and is now on a mission to gather the Dragon Balls. Goku, conveniently absent from the house, senses the danger but arrives too late. He finds the once lively, smiling man who raised him now lying among the wreckage of their shattered home, his life slipping away. This scene should have been a thunderous emotional punch, a painful, gut-wrenching blow that forever changes Goku's destiny. But instead, the moment is treated like a mere plot device, barely given room to breathe. There is no powerful build-up, no time spent nurturing the bond between Goku and Gohan earlier in the story to make this death feel earned. The film glosses over their relationship, offering only a few vague training sessions and a couple of warnings about the coming eclipse. So, when Gohan dies, we don't feel the weight of the loss. We don't feel the earth-shattering grief that should consume Goku. There are no flashbacks to happier times, no desperate pleas, no tears that make the audience ache alongside the character. Instead, Goku's grief is brushed aside in a matter of seconds as the movie quickly pushes him into the next phase of his journey. The film's failure to properly handle Gohan's death is a critical misstep because it removes the emotional engine that should have driven Goku forward. In the anime, Gohan's passing is not just about losing a family member, it's about losing the person who gave Goku his entire sense of identity, the person who taught him how to be good, how to be strong, how to respect life. It's the moment that turns Goku from a carefree boy into a protector of the world. In Dragon Ball Evolution, this layered transition is absent. Goku seems mildly upset, but there is no lasting sorrow, no inner turmoil, no period of reflection. His response feels mechanical, an obligatory reaction to keep the plot moving, not a profound loss that shakes his soul. Even Piccolo's role in this scene is deeply underwhelming. His sudden appearance and swift attack lack the sense of menace and spectacle that such a moment demands. In the anime, King Piccolo was a terrifying force, a demon whose wrath was felt in every frame, whose evil presence loomed like a dark cloud over the world. But in the movie, Piccolo simply shows up, delivers a quick blow, and leaves, like a villain on autopilot with no gravitas, no complexity, and no real threat that lingers. What should have been one of the film's most heartbreaking, beautifully tragic moments instead becomes a missed opportunity, one that exposes how disconnected this adaptation is from the soul of its source material. The movie never lets us sit with Goku's pain. It never allows him to fully mourn. It never uses this death to shape his character in a meaningful way. Instead, it uses Gohan's death as a stepping stone, a plot checkpoint, an excuse to kickstart Goku's quest without building the emotional depth that should accompany it. For fans of Dragon Ball, this moment is perhaps one of the most painful betrayals of all, because Gohan's death is supposed to matter. It's supposed to change everything. But in Dragon Ball Evolution, it changes nothing. It's just another shallow event in a film that consistently misunderstands the very heart of the story it is trying to tell. With his grandfather's death fresh in his mind, Goku sets out on his journey to find Master Roshi and stop Piccolo from collecting all 7 Dragon Balls. This should have been the true launching point of an epic adventure, a moment where the story opens up to vast, colorful horizons, introducing new allies, formidable enemies, and the thrilling discovery of a world much larger than Goku ever imagined. But Dragon Ball Evolution handles this transition with an alarming lack of energy, stripping away the sense of wonder and scale that defines the heart of the Dragon Ball franchise. In the original anime, the quest to find the Dragon Balls is an exhilarating ride filled with humor, danger, curiosity, and magic. It's about traveling to remote lands, encountering bizarre creatures, forming unlikely friendships, and learning about ancient legends. Each Dragon Ball feels like a priceless treasure, protected by unique challenges and colorful guardians. Every step of the journey is filled with excitement, mystery, and life-changing lessons. But in the film, the adventure is sadly reduced to a bland by-the-numbers treasure hunt, with no meaningful world building, no immersive landscapes, and no sense of awe. When Goku meets Bulma, their meeting feels mechanical and rushed. In the anime, Bulma's introduction is memorable. She's the confident, resourceful girl who brings technology and humor into Goku's world. Their dynamic is filled with playful misunderstandings, cultural gaps, and comedic chemistry. Bulma is Goku's first real friend outside his small world, and she guides him into the complexities of modern society. But in the film, Bulma's character is hollow. She is presented as a serious gun-wielding scientist with minimal personality, stripped of her charm and wit. Their partnership doesn't feel earned or natural, it feels like a checklist item the filmmakers needed to cross off. Even Goku's decision to embark on this journey feels emotionally thin. In the anime, Goku is driven by a pure hearted desire to explore, to grow stronger, and to honor his grandfather's memory. There's a deep sense of personal responsibility and curiosity that propels him forward. In Dragon Ball Evolution, Goku's motivation is vague and shallow. He is told to find Master Roshi. He is told to gather the Dragon Balls. But there's no internal fire, no spark of genuine purpose that pushes him. The weight of the world is placed on his shoulders, but he carries it like a boy who's simply following orders, not like a hero who truly understands the stakes. The world itself feels shockingly small. Instead of expansive deserts, ancient temples, and strange villages, the movie gives us generic cities, lifeless landscapes, and rushed set pieces. There's no sense of scale, no sense that Goku is stepping into an unknown world filled with magic and ancient powers. The locations feel like cheap backdrops rather than living, breathing parts of a legendary universe. It's a visual and narrative failure that drains the story of its adventurous spirit. The pacing is another major issue. The film moves so quickly from one scene to the next that there's no time to develop meaningful relationships or let the audience feel the progression of the journey. Goku meets Bulma. They decide to travel together. They're suddenly on the road. Everything is too fast, too shallow, too focused on rushing to the next action sequence without taking time to build the world, the lore, or the heart of the story. What's most heartbreaking is that the quest in Dragon Ball has always been more than just a search for artifacts. It's about friendship, discovery, humor, and the joy of growing stronger. It's about the moments between the battles, the meals shared around campfires, the playful banter, the quiet reflections. In Dragon Ball Evolution, these moments don't exist. The quest is reduced to a plot line stripped of its soul, a series of uninspired checkpoints that fail to capture the magic that made the original journey unforgettable. In trying to condense this vast story into a short, action-driven film, the creators of Dragon Ball Evolution sacrificed the very essence of what made the anime legendary. They gave us a journey without wonder, a quest without meaning, and a hero without heart. As Goku's journey begins, the film introduces Bulma Briefs, one of the most iconic and essential characters in the Dragon Ball universe. In the anime, Bulma is a genius inventor, a fierce adventurer, and the comedic heartbeat of the story. She is bold, sassy, flawed, and unapologetically herself, a character who constantly surprises you with her intelligence, her resilience, and her ability to get into and out of wild situations. She isn't just a sidekick, she's the spark that ignites the adventure. Yet in Dragon Ball Evolution, Bulma's portrayal is tragically watered down, turning her into a flat, generic action heroine stripped of her warmth, wit, and vibrancy. From the moment Bulma appears on screen in the film, her complexity is replaced with cold efficiency. She's introduced as a gun-wielding scientist, focused and serious, but utterly lacking the charismatic charm that made her beloved by fans worldwide. Her defining trait in this adaptation seems to be her stubbornness and her combat readiness, but she's missing the playful curiosity, the over-the-top reactions, and the ambitious genius that made her so memorable in the anime. In the original series, Bulma was not a warrior. She was an inventor, a problem solver, someone who used her brain to survive in a world filled with monsters and martial artists. Her capsule corporation technology, her dragon radar, her clever gadgets, these were her weapons. She wasn't just tagging along for the ride, she was a driving force, shaping the journey with her intelligence and ingenuity. But the movie barely touches on Bulma's scientific brilliance. Her dragon radar feels like a prop rather than an extension of her genius, and we don't see her building, fixing, or creating in any meaningful way. The film robs her of her role as the technological anchor of the team. Even more disappointing is the complete lack of chemistry between Bulma and Goku. In the anime, their relationship is hilariously awkward, filled with cultural misunderstandings and comedic tension, Bulma is the city girl, Goku is the wild mountain boy, and watching them navigate their differences is a huge part of the story's heart. But in the film, their interactions are cold, transactional, and devoid of humor. Bulma seems more like a plot delivery system than a fully realized character with quirks and layers. The filmmakers even reimagined Bulma's appearance to make her more like a standard Hollywood action character. Gone is her vibrant blue hair, replaced with a single streak, as if to timidly nod to the source material without truly embracing it. It's a small but telling detail that reflects the film's overall hesitation to fully commit to the world of Dragon Ball. Instead of boldly celebrating the colorful, eccentric designs that made the anime so visually unique, the movie opts for safe, muted versions of the characters that feel generic and uninspired. Bulma's humor, her ambition to find the Dragon Balls to wish for a perfect boyfriend, her overreactions to danger, her ability to get on Goku's nerves while still earning his respect, all of this is absent. The Bulma we get in Dragon Ball Evolution is a shadow of her former self, a character stripped of the very elements that made her special. What makes this such a painful misstep is that Bulma, in many ways, was the bridge between the audience and the fantastical world of Dragon Ball. Through her eyes, we experience wonder, fear, frustration, and excitement. She was a flawed, relatable human navigating a world of superpowered fighters, and that made her indispensable to the story's emotional core. By flattening her into a background character with a gun, the movie loses a huge part of Dragon Ball's magic. Once again, Dragon Ball Evolution shows its fundamental misunderstanding of the source material, not just in story, but in spirit. Bulma deserved better. Fans deserved to see her in all her brilliance, all her sass, all her imperfect, hilarious, genius glory. But instead, she was sidelined. Another victim of a film too afraid to truly embrace the legend it was trying to retell. In the Dragon Ball universe, Master Roshi is more than just a martial arts teacher. He is a living legend, a complex blend of humor, wisdom, and eccentricity. Known as the Turtle Hermit, Master Roshi is the man who trains Goku, instills discipline, and shapes him into a true fighter. But what makes Roshi unforgettable in the anime is not just his strength, it's his playful personality, his shameless but comical flaws, his deep connection to the ancient traditions of martial arts, and his ability to balance being both a master and a mischievous old man. In Dragon Ball Evolution, however, Master Roshi is presented as a hollow version of his anime counterpart, stripped of his layers, his humor, and most of his depth. When Goku and Bulma finally meet Roshi in the movie, it should have been a moment of great excitement, a pivotal turning point where Goku begins his transformation under the guidance of a true master. But the scene falls flat, lacking any of the charm or significance it should have carried. Roshi, played by Chow is introduced in a casual, almost forgettable way, as if the film doesn't understand how crucial his role is. His character is injected with a few moments of forced humor, but they feel unnatural, awkward, and disconnected from the flow of the story. Instead of being the eccentric, lovable mentor, he comes across as just another side character moving the plot forward. In the anime, Master Roshi's perverted antics, though controversial by modern standards, were never meant to diminish his role as a serious martial artist. They added a layer of comic relief that balanced the intensity of his wisdom. He wasn't just a static teacher, he was dynamic, surprising, and human. His training methods were unorthodox and filled with life lessons that shaped Goku's spirit. But in the movie, Roshi's mentorship feels thin and transactional. There are no iconic training montages, no life-affirming lessons about patience, resilience, or the importance of inner strength. His interactions with Goku lack the depth and the emotional connection that should exist between master and student. The film also completely ignores the cultural and mystical elements that made Master Roshi so fascinating. There's no mention of the Turtle School, no Kame House on a remote island, no sacred traditions passed down through generations. Even his signature technique, the legendary Kamehameha, is reduced to a quick, sloppy explanation, robbed of the majesty and build-up that made it one of the most iconic moves in anime history. The Kamehameha is not just a technique. In the original, it is a sacred, powerful energy wave that requires focus, discipline, and emotional growth. But in Dragon Ball Evolution, it's treated like a party trick, something Goku learns in a matter of minutes with no spiritual journey behind it. Perhaps the most disappointing aspect of Roshi's portrayal is the lack of real chemistry between him and Goku. In the anime, their relationship is layered with humor, respect, occasional frustration, and genuine affection. Goku looks up to Roshi, not just as a teacher, but as a father figure who challenges him to push past his limits. In the film, however, their bond is barely developed. Roshi gives Goku a few instructions, throws in a rushed fight scene, and suddenly, Goku is ready to face Piccolo. There's no true arc, no growth, no sense of passing on ancient knowledge. The filmmakers had an incredible opportunity to make Master Roshi the heart of the story, the bridge between Goku's past and his future, the mentor who would not only teach him how to fight, but how to live with courage and honor. Instead, Roshi becomes just another forgettable character in a film that consistently fails to honor its source material. His presence feels obligatory, his wisdom feels hollow, and his comedic potential is wasted. What makes this misstep so painful is that Master Roshi could have been a breakout character. He could have anchored the film with his quirky humor, his ancient knowledge, and his unorthodox training methods. He could have delivered emotional moments that resonated with both old fans and new audiences. But the movie didn't trust the character. It didn't trust the depth of the story. And so, what we are left with is a diluted version of a legend, a ghost of what Master Roshi was always meant to be. One of the most heartbreaking moments for Dragon Ball fans watching Dragon Ball Evolution comes when the film introduces the Kamehameha, a move that, in the anime, carries immense emotional and narrative weight. In the original story, the Kamehameha is more than just a powerful energy blast. It is the signature martial arts technique of the Turtle School, a symbol of perseverance, patience, and spiritual growth. It represents countless hours of training, self-discovery, and connection to life energy, known as Ki. But in Dragon Ball Evolution, this legendary move is reduced to a shallow, gimmicky trick, a sad reflection of the film's failure to understand the deeper soul of the Dragon Ball universe. In the anime, Goku's first attempt at the Kamehameha is a monumental scene. He watches Master Roshi carefully, soaking in every movement, every breath, every ounce of focus required to perform such a technique. Roshi's explanation is not just technical, it's philosophical. The Kamehameha requires harmony between body and spirit, a deep understanding of one's own energy, and years of dedicated training. When Goku manages to mimic the technique, it's a moment of shock, humor, and awe, because the audience realizes that he is not an ordinary boy. His raw potential is extraordinary. But in the movie, this sacred, almost mythical technique is trivialized to a quick, almost comedic training exercise. There is no emotional build-up, no spiritual preparation, no moment of reverence. Master Roshi casually mentions the move, and Goku fumbles around, struggling to produce it. What should have been a key moment in Goku's development is rushed and stripped of significance. The film uses the Kamehameha not as a symbol of discipline, but as a lazy shortcut to move the plot forward. At one point, Goku is even shown using the Kamehameha to light torches, a moment so absurd and disrespectful to the legacy of the technique that it left many fans in disbelief. The animation of the Kamehameha itself lacks the dramatic flair that made it so unforgettable in the anime. Gone are the spiraling energy waves, the glowing blue sphere forming between cupped hands, the earth-shaking release of power. Instead, what we get is a bland, unimpressive blast of CGI that feels weightless and poorly choreographed. There's no tension, no visual storytelling in the build-up, no moment where the audience holds its breath before the energy is unleashed. The film's version of the Kamehameha is visually underwhelming, emotionally flat, and narratively hollow. Even worse, the training sequence for the Kamehameha is a complete missed opportunity. In the anime, training is the heart and soul of Goku's journey. It's where he faces his limits, where he fails, learns, grows, and ultimately surpasses expectations. But in Dragon Ball Evolution, Goku's learning curve is artificially accelerated. He masters the Kamehameha within minutes, with no real struggle, no inner conflict, no gradual growth. The audience is robbed of seeing Goku's personal journey from an impulsive, undisciplined boy to a warrior capable of wielding such power responsibly. What makes this so tragic is that the Kamehameha is not just a move, it's a connection to the heritage of Dragon Ball, a direct link to Master Roshi, to the Turtle School, to the anime's very identity. In the show, when Goku finally perfects the Kamehameha, it's a testament to his spirit, his endurance, and his unwavering dedication. It is a move that fans across generations mimicked with joy, a universal symbol of the franchise. To see it reduced to an afterthought in the film is nothing short of heartbreaking. The Kamehameha deserved a moment that made audiences feel like they were witnessing something sacred, something earned. But the film treated it like a casual plot device, a means to push Goku to the next scene rather than a milestone in his hero's journey. This reflects the larger issue with Dragon Ball Evolution. It continuously misses the emotional core of what made the source material legendary. Had the filmmakers understood the weight and the wonder behind the Kamehameha, they could have crafted a breathtaking cinematic moment, a slow build, an emotional payoff, a visual spectacle that honored decades of storytelling. But instead, they gave us a sparkless imitation, a hollow wave with no soul behind it. Dot in the vast world of Dragon Ball, Chi-Chi stands as a symbol of strength, pride, and fiery determination. She is not just a love interest. She is a fighter, a daughter of the Ox King, and a woman who carves her own place in a world dominated by legendary warriors. In the anime, Chi-Chi is memorable for her intense spirit, her fierce loyalty, and her complicated but heartfelt relationship with Goku. However, Dragon Ball Evolution reduces this multidimensional character to a shallow high school crush, a supporting role that barely scratches the surface of who Chi-Chi truly is. When Chi-Chi is introduced in the movie, it's clear that the filmmakers chose to reimagine her as the typical Hollywood popular girl, complete with forced romantic tension and a rivalry subplot that feels painfully out of place in the Dragon Ball legacy. The problem isn't just the change in setting, it's that the film strips away Chi-Chi's core identity. In the anime, Chi-Chi is a martial artist in her own right, someone who fights with passion, holds her ground against overwhelming odds, and demands respect. She is a woman of action and fierce independence. In Dragon Ball Evolution, Chi-Chi becomes passive, a trophy character whose primary purpose is to exist as Goku's love interest. The decision to center Chi-Chi's arc around a predictable high school romance is perhaps one of the most damaging missteps the movie makes. In the source material, Goku's relationship with Chi-Chi develops through misunderstandings, battles, shared adventures, and a blend of genuine affection and comedic miscommunication. It is endearing because Goku's innocent, clueless nature contrasts so perfectly with Chi-Chi's fiery personality. Their connection feels earned through years of shared experience. In the film, however, the relationship is rushed, hollow, and cliched. There's no emotional build-up, no true bonding moments, and no spark that would make the audience root for them. The film also squanders Chi-Chi's potential as a fighter. In the anime, Chi-Chi steps into the martial arts tournament ring, facing opponents with courage and skill. She isn't someone who waits on the sidelines, she battles for her own destiny. Dragon Ball Evolution briefly hints at her being a capable fighter, but quickly sidelines her into a supporting role where her skills are underutilized and her presence feels ornamental. When she does fight, the scenes lack weight, and there is no proper showcase of her abilities. Chi-Chi's fighting spirit, which should have been a central part of her identity, is instead treated as an afterthought. One of the most egregious choices in the film is the Chi-Chi versus Chi-Chi clone subplot, a moment that could have been thrilling, but instead feels rushed, underdeveloped, and narratively empty. Rather than using this confrontation to explore Chi-Chi's inner strength or her relationship with Goku, the scene quickly devolves into a shallow fight with little emotional consequence. This was a perfect chance to give Chi-Chi more agency, more voice, and more depth. But instead, it is glossed over to push Goku's journey forward. What's truly heartbreaking is that Chi-Chi's transformation into a one-dimensional character mirrors the film's larger problem. It refuses to trust the complexity of its own universe. The filmmakers seem afraid to let the female characters have agency, humor, or storylines that exist outside of the male protagonist's journey. In doing so, they flatten Chi-Chi into something unrecognizable, a character designed for convenience, not for narrative impact. In the Dragon Ball anime, Chi-Chi is often the grounding force in Goku's life. She challenges him, scolds him, and holds him accountable, a dynamic that humanizes both of them. She is a fighter, a mother, a wife, and above all, a person with ambitions and flaws. None of that richness makes it to the screen in Dragon Ball Evolution. If the filmmakers had truly embraced who Chi-Chi was, a warrior with a burning heart and a spirit that could rival Goku's, the film could have elevated her beyond the love interest trope. She could have been a powerful symbol of balance, a fighter who stands shoulder to shoulder with Goku, not behind him. But instead, she is left as a forgettable side note, another casualty of a film that continuously fails to capture the heart of the story it tried to tell. In the Dragon Ball universe, Piccolo is one of the most fascinating and layered characters ever created. Originally introduced as a terrifying villain, Piccolo is much more than a simple antagonist. He is a complex figure with a powerful backstory, evolving from a conqueror to an unlikely ally, and eventually a surrogate father figure to Goku's son. His arc is one of redemption, loneliness, and inner conflict, and his imposing presence in the anime makes him a worthy adversary, not just because of his power, but because of his commanding, strategic mind and personal depth. Sadly, in Dragon Ball Evolution, the film delivers one of its greatest disservices by reducing Piccolo to a bland, underdeveloped, and almost invisible villain. From his very first appearance, Piccolo in the movie feels like a background noise rather than the central threat. His design is uninspired. Gone is the intricate Namekian texture, the intense eyes filled with layered emotion, the looming, threatening silhouette. Instead, we are left with a generic green-skinned figure, lacking the visual gravitas and magnetic screen presence that should have defined him. James Masters, the talented actor behind Piccolo, is tragically wasted in a role that offers him almost nothing to work with. His lines are limited, his motivations are barely explained, and his character is robbed of all the richness that made Anime Piccolo one of the most memorable villains turned heroes in anime history. The anime carefully builds Piccolo's menace. His power is showcased not just through brute strength, but through calculated moves, moments of dominance, and a palpable aura of danger. But in Dragon Ball Evolution, Piccolo's threat level is almost laughably low. The film tells us he's a powerful enemy, but fails to show us why. His attacks are sparse, his plans are thinly sketched, and he spends most of the movie hiding in the shadows, disconnected from the emotional journey of the protagonist. There is no psychological warfare, no cat-and-mouse game, no tension-filled encounters that would make us fear or respect him. He feels more like a checklist villain than the beating heart of the conflict. Even worse, the movie gives Piccolo no clear or compelling reason for his return or his desire for conquest. In the anime, Piccolo's hatred for Goku is personal. He is the offspring of King Piccolo, who was defeated by Goku in an epic battle. His quest is driven by revenge, by a legacy of defeat, and by a need to prove himself. In Dragon Ball Evolution, the script lazily tells us that Piccolo once tried to destroy the Earth and is now back, for reasons that are never fully explored. There's no depth, no personal vendetta, no sense of history or emotional stakes tied to his return. What could have been a nuanced villain, one with layers of pride, grief, and rage, is instead flattened into a generic conqueror archetype. There's no inner turmoil, no exploration of what drives Piccolo, no foreshadowing of his potential for change or growth. He is simply there to fulfill the antagonist role, without any meaningful development. This robs the final battle of any emotional punch because the hero and villain have no personal connection. no shared past, and no narrative tension that would make their confrontation meaningful. One of the biggest lost opportunities is the absence of the thematic richness Piccolo brings to the Dragon Ball saga. In the anime, Piccolo represents the idea that even the most broken, hateful beings can find redemption. His eventual relationship with Gohan, his shift from enemy to mentor, is one of the most beloved arcs in the franchise. The seeds of this complexity should have been planted in Dragon Ball Evolution, but the film takes none of the necessary steps to give Piccolo that depth. James Masters himself has openly criticized the film's mishandling of his character, explaining that most of Piccolo's backstory and key scenes were either cut or never properly filmed. He wanted to bring the anime's Piccolo to life, a villain with weight, with a story, with a sense of tragedy, but the final product left him with little more than shallow dialogue and fleeting appearances. The villain problem in Dragon Ball Evolution is a reflection of the film's larger issue. It refuses to invest in the emotional layers of its characters. Instead of giving us a powerful, dangerous, and complex Piccolo, we are handed a shell of a villain, a green figure with no soul behind the eyes. Had the film honored Piccolo's rich anime legacy, his cunning, his quiet menace, his eventual path to redemption, it could have added layers of complexity to an otherwise hollow plot. Instead, Piccolo is forgotten the moment he leaves the screen, another missed opportunity in a movie that consistently misunderstands what made Dragon Ball beloved in the first place. One of the greatest tragedies in Dragon Ball Evolution is its failure to honor the soul of the Dragon Ball franchise, martial arts. In the anime, martial arts are not just about flashy punches and high-speed battles, they are the language of the story. Through combat, characters grow, relationships evolve, and emotional milestones are reached. Each fight tells a story of perseverance, struggle, and philosophy. Martial arts in Dragon Ball are spiritual, intense, and deeply character-driven. But in Dragon Ball Evolution, the sacred art of fighting is reduced to a series of lifeless, poorly choreographed action scenes that feel like they belong to a generic, low-effort superhero film, not the grand world of Dragon Ball. In the original anime, martial arts are a disciplined, almost spiritual practice. Goku's journey is largely defined by his training, his countless hours spent pushing his body beyond its limits, his understanding of balance, patience, and the deeper connections between mind and body. Every opponent teaches him something new. Every battle pushes him towards self-discovery. Even comedic fights in Dragon Ball have layers of strategy, respect, and emotion that elevate them beyond simple brawls. But in Dragon Ball Evolution, the fight sequences feel plastic, uninspired, and disconnected from the characters' emotional journeys. The choreography lacks fluidity, the movements are stiff, and there's a mechanical repetition to the combat that quickly becomes tedious. The battles are not carefully staged showdowns that reveal character growth or narrative stakes. They are just action for the sake of action. There's no sense of danger, no escalating tension, and worst of all, no emotional connection to the fights themselves. One of the most glaring examples of this failure is the training montage between Goku and Master Roshi. In the anime, Goku's training under Roshi is transformative. It's grueling, humorous, and packed with wisdom that shapes Goku's entire worldview. The audience feels every step of his progression, from carrying milk jugs across mountains to mastering ancient techniques. But in the film, the training is glossed over with tired, fast-paced editing and uninspired sequences that lack any real challenge or growth. There's no grit, no moments where Goku questions himself, no scenes where we see him push through exhaustion to become stronger. Even the climactic battle between Goku and Piccolo is shockingly anticlimactic. In the anime, Goku's major battles are emotional climaxes, carefully built through rivalries, personal stakes, and narrative growth. The audience is invested not just in who wins, but in what the fight means to the characters. But in Dragon Ball Evolution, the final showdown is visually bland, short, and completely devoid of strategy or passion. It's just two people throwing energy blasts at each other with no weight behind their strikes. There's no creativity in the choreography, no clever use of techniques, No ebb and flow that keeps viewers on the edge of their seats. Even the wire work and special effects, which could have added some flair, fall embarrassingly short. The fights lack the kinetic energy that made the anime legendary. There's no sense of power, no bone shaking impacts, no breathtaking speed that conveys the superhuman abilities of the characters. The punches don't feel like they hurt. The energy waves don't feel like they explode. The entire visual language of Dragon Ball, the dynamic camera angles, the mid-air clashes, the world-shaking power levels, is simply missing. The film's misunderstanding of martial arts runs deeper than bad choreography. It's a betrayal of Dragon Ball's soul. Martial arts in Dragon Ball are about personal evolution. Every punch, every training sequence, every defeat is a step forward in the hero's journey. Goku's story is as much about his growth as a martial artist as it is about saving the world. The film reduces this rich tradition to a shallow sideshow, stripping away the life lessons and emotional stakes that should come with each fight. This is why Dragon Ball Evolution feels so hollow. It doesn't understand what a Dragon Ball fight really is. A fight is not just a battle, it's a dialogue between characters. It's where they prove themselves, where they discover who they really are. It's where the audience falls in love with their journey. Without this heart, the film's action sequences collapse into empty noise. If the filmmakers had respected the martial arts foundation of the story, if they had treated every battle as a moment of character growth and emotional release, the film could have delivered something memorable. Instead, they gave us action without soul, fights without stakes, and a Dragon Ball movie that forgot how to fight in the first place. One of the most magical things about the Dragon Ball universe is its vast, colorful, and wildly imaginative world. In the anime, Goku's adventures take him across sprawling deserts, lush forests, majestic floating islands, ancient temples, and futuristic cities. The world feels alive, endlessly diverse, and bursting with stories waiting to be told. It's a place where dinosaurs roam next to robots, mystical creatures coexist with martial artists, and the sky is never the limit. This is part of what makes Dragon Ball so iconic. Its ability to transport us into a universe where anything feels possible. But Dragon Ball Evolution tragically shrinks this grand universe into something painfully small, dull, and ordinary. Instead of giving us an epic, otherworldly adventure, the film cages Goku inside the confines of a generic high school and a suburban neighborhood. The sense of scale, wonder, and endless possibility that defines the Dragon Ball saga is completely missing. The movie's settings feel empty, flat, and disconnected from the source material's adventurous spirit. The world we see in Dragon Ball Evolution is shockingly lifeless. There are no capsule corporations, no flying cars, no shape-shifting animals, no alien landscapes. None of the bizarre, delightful elements that made the anime world feel so original. Instead, we get a high school cafeteria, a backyard dojo, and a few basic sets that could have belonged to any low-budget teen movie. The grand scale of the Dragon Ball world is compressed into something that feels small, uninspired, and depressingly ordinary. The failure to create an immersive world is one of the film's deepest wounds. In the anime, each journey to find a Dragon Ball is a thrilling exploration through unknown territories, treacherous mountains, deep oceans, haunted caves. The film strips away all of that adventure. The Dragon Balls are collected with shockingly little effort or drama, and the locations feel so generic that you forget where Goku is even supposed to be. There's no sense of mystery, no danger in the unknown, no awe-inspiring discovery along the way. The world simply doesn't feel like it's worth exploring. Even the technology and magic that make Dragon Ball unique are either poorly represented or entirely absent. Where are the capsules that can store houses and vehicles in the palm of your hand? Where are the talking animals, the bizarre alien species, and the quirky side characters that pop up in every corner of the anime world? Where is the fusion of Eastern mysticism and futuristic science that defines the Dragon Ball aesthetic? The movie abandons all of these signature world-building details in favor of a bland, earthbound setting that feels completely out of place for a Dragon Ball story. The spiritual landmarks, such as Kami's Lookout or the sacred land of Korin, are never even hinted at. The journey feels like it's happening in a ghost town, not in the sprawling, magical world that Akira Toriyama carefully crafted. Even Master Roshi's home, which in the anime is the legendary Kame house, a tiny pink house sitting alone on a small island in the middle of the ocean, is reduced to a boring house in the city. Gone is the whimsy, the humor, the surreal charm of Roshi's island hideout. This one change alone is symbolic of how little the filmmakers understood or cared about the Dragon Ball universe's visual identity. The high school setting in particular is a critical misstep. By forcing Goku into a modern high school, the film rips away the adventurous, nomadic essence of his character. Goku in the anime is a boy of the wild, raised in the mountains, curious about the world, uninterested in societal structures like school or social status. He is a wanderer, a learner, and an explorer. Trapping him inside locker rooms and teenage cliques strips away his core identity and makes him feel like just another Hollywood protagonist instead of the wide-eyed adventurer we know and love. If the film had embraced the boldness of the Dragon Ball world, its strange, whimsical, and boundless geography, it could have transported the audience into an unforgettable cinematic landscape. It could have brought to life the dragons, the flying nimbus cloud, the faraway temples, and the thrilling sense that the next adventure could be waiting just beyond the horizon. Instead, Dragon Ball Evolution gave us a small town, small stakes, and an even smaller imagination. The universe that once felt infinite is shrunk into a few city blocks, and with it, the heart of the story is lost. Perhaps the most painful truth about Dragon Ball Evolution is that it simply does not feel like Dragon Ball. The film wears the Dragon Ball name, borrows a few character titles, and loosely drapes itself in the appearance of the franchise, but at its core, it seems to forget what Dragon Ball really is. The result is a movie that feels like a disconnected, distant cousin rather than a heartfelt adaptation. Fans who grew up loving Goku's journey felt betrayed, not just because of what the film changed, but because of what it failed to carry over: the heart, the humor, the spirit. The anime is a joyful blend of action, comedy, adventure, and deep emotional growth. It's a story about pushing limits, finding family in unexpected places, and embracing curiosity about the world. It's about a boy from another planet who never loses his innocence, his hunger for learning, or his pure-hearted approach to life, even when he becomes Earth's greatest defender. But Dragon Ball Evolution strips away these layers, reshaping Dragon Ball into something it was never meant to be: a formulaic, westernized teen superhero story that feels painfully out of touch with the original. One of the most glaring signs of this disrespect is how the film rewrites Goku's character. In the anime, Goku is wonderfully simple, naive, kind, and completely uninterested in popularity or fitting in. He's not a brooding outsider struggling to survive in high school. He's an adventurer from the mountains who knows nothing about society and doesn't care to learn. His charm comes from his purity. He doesn't understand greed, manipulation, or jealousy. But the movie forces Goku into the tired Hollywood mold: the underdog teenager who wants to impress a girl, who deals with bullies, and who hides his powers to blend in. This isn't Goku. It's a generic superhero origin story wearing Goku's clothes. The disrespect goes beyond Goku. Beloved characters like Bulma, Master Roshi, and Chi-Chi are reduced to shallow versions of themselves, stripped of their quirks and charm. Bulma, the tech-savvy genius who is both bossy and brave, is turned into a bland sidekick with a gun. Master Roshi, known for his eccentric wisdom and comical perversion, is reimagined as a forgettable mentor with no comedic edge or memorable presence. Chi-Chi, a fierce and proud martial artist, is reduced to a high school crush, robbed of her fiery spirit and strength. Each character feels like an empty shell, as if the writers knew the names but never understood the souls behind them. Even the Dragon Balls themselves, the sacred objects that inspire world-spanning adventures, are reduced to mere plot tokens in the film. In the anime, the search for Dragon Balls is thrilling and filled with moral questions. What would you wish for? Is it right to collect them? Who else is searching for them and why? In the film, the Dragon Balls simply exist to move the story forward, without emotional weight or mystery. The magic is gone. What hurts even more is that the humor, one of Dragon Ball's most defining features, is almost completely absent. The anime is often hilarious. It knows how to balance epic martial arts battles with light-hearted, absurd comedy. Goku's innocence leads to countless funny misunderstandings. Roshi's antics make him both lovable and ridiculous, and the world is filled with bizarre, funny creatures. But Dragon Ball Evolution takes itself far too seriously, stripping away the humor and leaving behind a story that feels joyless and hollow. It's as if the filmmakers saw Dragon Ball through a narrow, superficial lens, focusing on the names and the flashy moves, while ignoring the core identity that makes the story resonate with millions. The anime teaches lessons about friendship, perseverance, and finding strength in kindness. The film teaches nothing. It goes through the motions of a generic hero's journey, but forgets to bring along the spirit, the warmth, the heart. This is why fans didn't just dislike Dragon Ball Evolution, they felt personally insulted by it. The movie didn't just fail to meet expectations, it failed to respect the very DNA of the story it was adapting. It didn't understand what made Dragon Ball special. It didn't even try. Had the filmmakers truly loved Dragon Ball, they would have built a story filled with adventure, humor, wonder, and characters who felt alive. Instead, they delivered a product that treated Dragon Ball as just another franchise to be squeezed into Hollywood's tight mold. In the end, Dragon Ball Evolution didn't just disrespect the source material, it forgot it. Asterisk. One of the most heartbreaking casualties in Dragon Ball Evolution is the character of Chi-Chi, a powerful independent martial artist in the Dragon Ball anime, who is tragically reduced to nothing more than a shallow high school crush in the film. In the source material, Chi-Chi is a fiery, determined fighter with her own dreams, a fierce temper, and a deep pride in her abilities. She is no background ornament. She is a warrior who holds her own, stands up for what she believes in, and eventually becomes a central figure in Goku's life, not because she is pretty, but because she is strong. But in Dragon Ball Evolution, Chi-Chi is stripped of her depth, her strength, and her warrior spirit. She is lazily written as the stereotypical pretty girl that the male protagonist desires, a damsel polished by Hollywood's shallow standards. Her primary role is to exist as Goku's romantic interest, someone he awkwardly pines for in school hallways and tries to impress at parties. This version of Chi-Chi is a hollow imitation, her fierce combat prowess sidelined, her ambitions erased, and her identity boiled down to surface-level attraction. In the anime, Chi-Chi is the daughter of the Ox King, a girl trained to be a warrior from a young age. She is bold, headstrong, and not afraid to fight for herself. Her relationship with Goku is born out of their shared experiences in battle, their mutual respect, and the comedic miscommunications that make their bond unique. Chi-Chi isn't just a love interest. She is a driving force, a mother who fiercely protects her family, and a character who challenges Goku emotionally in ways no villain ever could. But in the film, all of this is erased. Chi-Chi's martial arts skills are barely touched upon, and even when she does fight, it feels like an afterthought, a quick nod to fans, rather than a meaningful part of her character. Her strength is never fully displayed, her internal conflicts are never explored, and her connection to Goku feels forced and unearned. The film turns her into the classic girl next door, a prize to be won, a checkbox in the hero's journey, not a fully realized character with agency. What's even more frustrating is that the film attempts to manufacture tension by introducing a completely unnecessary subplot involving Chi-Chi's evil clone created by the villain's henchmen. Instead of using this as an opportunity to explore Chi-Chi's identity, fears, or inner strength, the film reduces it to a basic, poorly executed action beat. The emotional weight of fighting your own reflection, a classic trope that could have revealed so much about Chi-Chi, is wasted on a rushed, awkward sequence that serves no purpose beyond ticking a plot box. The original Chi-Chi's journey is rich and layered. She balances her desire for a peaceful family life with her roots as a warrior. She pushes Goku in ways no one else does. She represents a real world strength, raising a family, demanding respect, and fighting for her own sense of order. In contrast, the film's Chi-Chi is little more than set dressing, a background element used to create artificial stakes for Goku's battles. She has no agency, no arc, and no meaningful moments that showcase who she is. The mishandling of Chi-Chi is not just a minor character problem. It is symbolic of the film's wider issue, a complete misunderstanding of what makes Dragon Ball characters timeless. Chi-Chi was never just the girl in the story. She was never simply the love interest. She was always a fighter, someone who demanded to be seen, to be respected, and to stand shoulder to shoulder with the other warriors in her world. If the filmmakers had paid attention, they could have given us a Chi-Chi who inspired young girls, who stood out as more than just Goku's crush. She could have had her own fights, her own stakes, her own journey. She could have been a powerhouse who matched Goku's heart with her fire. Instead, the Chi-Chi we got is a faint echo of her true self, a character written to fill a space, not to leave a mark. In the Dragon Ball universe, Master Roshi is far more than just a martial arts teacher. He's an unforgettable figure, a wise, eccentric, and often hilariously inappropriate old man whose balance of humor, wisdom, and extraordinary fighting skill makes him one of the most beloved mentors in anime history. His island home, his perverted antics, his secret techniques, and his role as the teacher who sets Goku on his path toward greatness are woven into the very fabric of Dragon Ball's charm. But in Dragon Ball Evolution, Master Roshi is reduced to a hollow shell, a quiet, serious, and barely memorable figure who completely lacks the colorful, chaotic energy that defines him. The film strips Roshi of his playful madness, his comic relief moments, and his deep, surprising wisdom. Instead of being the quirky master who accidentally changes the mood of every scene with his bizarre behavior, the movie's Roshi is a flat, by-the-numbers mentor who exists only to deliver exposition and move the plot forward. In the anime, Master Roshi is a complex character wrapped in layers of contradiction. He is both ridiculously immature and profoundly wise. He spends his days reading adult magazines, dodging his students' scoldings, and chasing after girls. But when the time comes, he reveals himself as the formidable turtle hermit, the man who can summon the earth-shaking Kamehameha, the man who has trained some of the strongest warriors on the planet, the man who understands the true weight of martial arts. He is a teacher who doesn't just pass on techniques, he passes on life lessons, humility, and the spirit of perseverance. But in Dragon Ball Evolution, this balance is shattered. The film's version of Roshi, played by Chow Yun-fat, barely scratches the surface of the character. Gone are the over-the-top comedic beats, the exaggerated facial expressions, and the hilarious moments that show Roshi as a flawed, human, and utterly lovable mess. The movie gives us a mentor, but not Master Roshi. It gives us a man with knowledge, but not a man with soul. Even Roshi's iconic home, the tiny pink cane house perched on a remote island, is absent. Instead, the film traps him in a boring city house, erasing one of the most recognizable and charming visuals in Dragon Ball lore. This may seem like a small detail, but in reality, it speaks volumes about how little the filmmakers cared to capture the essence of the story's world. The Kame house isn't just a house. It's a symbol of Roshi's whimsical detachment from the rest of the world, his life of simplicity and freedom. The Kamehameha itself, Roshi's legendary signature move, is criminally mishandled. In the anime, learning the Kamehameha is a rite of passage, a symbol of Goku's growth and dedication. It's an energy technique that represents years of training and discipline. In the film, the Kamehameha is taught in a rushed, laughably short sequence, almost like a casual party trick rather than a sacred martial arts achievement. The moment that should have been one of triumph and awe is instead reduced to a quick checklist item, devoid of impact or emotion. What makes this failure so tragic is that Chow Yun-fat had the potential to bring something magical to the role. He is a charismatic, talented actor with a flair for both action and humor. But the script gives him nothing to work with. No room to be eccentric. No chance to show the layered complexity of the character. No moments to forge a memorable bond with Goku. The relationship between student and teacher feels shallow and underdeveloped, with none of the heartfelt mentorship that made their dynamic in the anime so powerful. Master Roshi should have been the beating heart of the film's martial arts journey. He should have been the unpredictable, hilarious, yet deeply wise figure who challenges Goku not just to fight, but to grow, to question, to believe in himself. Instead, the film forgets who Roshi really is and reduces him to a silent tour guide through a watered-down version of the Dragon Ball universe. In trying to modernize or westernize the story, the filmmakers drained Roshi of his eccentricities, forgetting that it was those very quirks that made him unforgettable. They forgot that his comedy wasn't just for laughs, it was part of his soul. In Dragon Ball Evolution, Master Roshi didn't just lose his personality, he lost his purpose. In the world of Dragon Ball, few things are as iconic, as beloved, and as deeply ingrained in pop culture as the Kamehameha. It is not just a fighting move, it is a symbol. It represents countless hours of training, self-discovery, and the power that comes from pure-hearted dedication. From the very first time Master Roshi unleashed it to when Goku mastered it through relentless struggle, the Kamehameha has always been more than just a blast of energy. It is a rite of passage, a manifestation of the soul, and a moment of triumph that burns into the memory of every Dragon Ball fan. But in Dragon Ball Evolution, this sacred technique is tragically reduced to an embarrassing, almost comical gimmick. The movie treats the Kamehameha with such shocking carelessness that it feels like a parody rather than a celebration. It is introduced casually, taught in a rushed montage, and ultimately used in the most bizarre, out-of-place way to light candles and spark flames as if it were some minor party trick rather than the culmination of deep martial arts mastery. In the anime, the Kamehameha is something Goku works for, fails at, and finally achieves after absorbing years of Master Roshi's teachings. When Roshi first demonstrates it, it is a moment of wide-eyed awe. When Goku finally performs it, fans understand that this isn't just energy, it is focus, control, and spiritual harmony. Every time Goku uses it throughout the series, it carries emotional weight. It often serves as the decisive move in battles that test his will, his courage, and his limits. But in the film, the Kamehameha is taught in a matter of minutes, as if it's just a technique to be casually handed over. There is no tension, no emotional build-up, and no sense of sacred tradition. Even more insulting, the film inexplicably changes the Kamehameha into a healing tool, a completely unnecessary deviation that feels like the writers fundamentally misunderstood what the move is supposed to represent. There is a painful moment when Master Roshi tells Goku to use the Kamehameha to light candles at a party. Instead of creating a scene of focused practice or an epic breakthrough, the film reduces it to a cheap visual gag. Imagine the weight of the Hadouken from Street Fighter or the Force from Star Wars being treated like a sparkler at a birthday party. That's exactly how Dragon Ball Evolution mishandles the Kamehameha. It's a moment that leaves fans stunned, not with excitement, but with bitter disappointment. Even the final Kamehameha, Goku's climactic finishing move against Piccolo, is delivered with zero impact. The visuals are underwhelming, the choreography is flat, and the emotional build-up simply doesn't exist. What should have been the film's thunderous, unforgettable payoff ends up feeling like an afterthought, a CGI blast that lacks power, purpose, and weight. The sound design is weak, the energy beam feels small, and the camera doesn't even linger long enough to give fans the satisfaction of witnessing Goku's ultimate attack in its full glory. The Kamehameha isn't just about energy, it's about timing, about the heart, about the connection between master and student. It's the move that binds generations of Dragon Ball fighters. It carries the soul of the anime, echoing the journey from Roshi to Goku to Gohan to every warrior who would later carry the tradition forward. The film's mishandling of it If you've stuck with me through this breakdown, you're the real MVP. Let me know in the comments, did you watch Dragon Ball Evolution? Did you survive it? Or like me, are you still recovering from the shock? Don't forget to hit that like button, smash that subscribe, and keep it locked right here on Real Talk Cinema, where we dig deep, keep it honest, and always respect the story. Until next time, stay real, stay curious, and keep loving cinema.